Our next guest is a senior editor at thestream.org, has been a press secretary to Pro-Life Louisiana Governor Mike Foster, reporter and editor at Success Magazine, Investors Business Daily, which I love, by the way. And so please welcome back to the program, John Zmirak. John, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, great to have you on the show. I'm turning down the wrong volume here. Now I can't hear myself. Okay, so we kind of primed your segment by having a conversation about basically the Gestapo using their powers of evil to push these large companies like Disney or the NFL or Apple to assist them in boycotting state and local governments who are attempting to implement policy that their citizens voted for, basically. So you asked the question is whether it's politically active Christians can motivate churchgoers and other fans of the First Amendment to counteract high-dollar blackmail of the sort the NFL and Disney employed to cow the governor of Georgia into vetoing a religious liberty bill.
Right. Are we going to start boycotting back? Are we going to keep shopping in stores like Walmart that want to take away our religious freedom? Or are we going to be just too dumb to live and basically deserve to be persecuted? Or are we going to push back and find ways to pressure these companies? Ultimately, here's what needs to happen. These companies, they like to come to states like New Hampshire or states like Georgia and Mississippi that have right-to-work laws, reasonable regulation, relatively small government, a decent workforce, safe neighborhoods, decent schools, all the things that conservatism brings. But they don't want to accept the basis of it all, which is freedom of religion, our vision of a free people, the right of citizens to enact laws that reflect their values, all the things that make conservatism possible, that make an orderly society and a prosperous society possible, which we know from our founders. They want to reject all that. They want to cut down the tree but eat the fruit. They want decent schools, peace, order, reasonable taxes, all the things conservatives do. But you know what? They're not willing to pay the price of letting us have our religious freedom. We need to change that deal. Conservative states, pro-business states, need to sort of form a block and work together, and so that we can tell these companies, look, if you don't want to be around a bunch of people who have religious freedom, if you have such contempt for us, fine, go do business elsewhere. Go set up in Detroit, and your employees' kids can get stabbed in public schools. Go to Baltimore, the murder capital, or go to California, the tax capital. But you're not going to get to reap the benefits of conservative philosophy while you try to destroy it at the root by taking away religious freedom.
John, I've got something that I mentioned earlier in the previous segment, and I need to post up, but it's from This Ain't Hell, one of the mill blogs that I read pretty much every day. And it talks exactly like this, and I'll tell you this hits it right on the head, and I want your thoughts on this. Here's my conundrum. If it is immoral, even criminal or civilly liable for these mom-and-pop Christian businesses to deny services based on their fundamental beliefs, why is it not also immoral or legally actionable for large corporations to refuse their services to the citizens of those states where those who govern choose to pass legislation to protect the religious freedom of their citizenry? If I'm a huge professional football guy living in Atlanta and the NFL people remove my city from contention for a near-future Super Bowl because they feel my state is discriminating against the transgendered, am I not the victim of discriminatory business practices on the part of the NFL? What about those organizations and corporations that cancel annual conferences and business meetings because of the actions of my state legislature? Aren't these big corporations refusing to do business with my state simply because they consider our practices immoral, just as those bakers, florists, and photographers see gays as immoral? Other than scale, I see little difference. I mean, that sums it up, I think, probably better than anything that I could ever do. What do you think?
That's very well put. Now, of course, I favor the freedom to boycott and the freedom to deny services on both sides. I think what we're seeing is the logic of the civil rights movement misapplied and extended to things it was never intended to touch. And I think Martin Luther King would be appalled to know that the arguments he honed for why regular black citizens should be able to sit at a lunch counter would now be applied to bearded trannies invading bathrooms. Maybe not even trannies.
Are you inferring that his Christian values would cut against that grain?
Yeah, I think so. And also, I think he would have been profoundly insulted to see black citizens equated with people with psychological delusions, or people pretending to have psychological delusions. Remember, there is no criterion to prove that you're transgender. So anybody who wants to be a voyeur, hang around in a high school girl locker room, hang around in a women's room, anybody who wants to do that, hang around outside the window of the windows of a sorority. If anybody comes, if the cops come, because somebody should call the cops on you, all you have to say is, I identify as a transgender there, like Caitlyn Jenner. I'm actually a woman trapped in the body of a 250-pound bodybuilder. They have to let you go.
Well,
they have to let you go. There is no criterion. You don't have to show you've cut anything off. You don't have to show you've taken any, disease-causing hormones. You don't have to be wearing a dress. You just have to say, I identify as a chick,
I wrote a post yesterday called, and you can read it at graniterock.com, called "The Point Is Not That Transgenders Might Be Predatory," and it's stirring up a good bit of dust.
In fact, it's the opposite. It's that predators might pretend to be transgender.
Oh, so you're just going to take my line from me. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I
already wrote it, so just, anyway, the whole point was that, is that it's not about, I've been called a bigot. I've been accused of thinking that all transgenders are predatory, and that's not the point. And it's exactly what Mike just said, which is what I wrote. The point is not that transgenders might be sexual predators. It is that sexual predators will claim to be transgender. That's the end of the argument.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And I think the best way to blow this up, and I'm writing a column about this for Monday, since there's no criterion for being transgender, there's no way to check, I think every white male in America who's the victim of affirmative action quotas, every single one, should claim to be transgender from now on.
Well, one of the things that
at all times, in every situation, I'm transgender. It's like the end of Spartacus. I'm transgender. No, I'm transgender. I'm transgender.
That's a great idea.
How can they prove it?
They can't.
They can't prove it.
One of the things that I added in my post was that, I asked the question, if men are always looking for opportunities to take advantage of women on campus to commit sexual assault, then men must be looking for opportunities to commit sexual assault everywhere else, which means they should not then be given unlimited access to women in public restrooms under any circumstance. So which is it?
Right.
Are men a predatory threat or not? Because, even in utopia, you can't have it both ways.
You have to have another set of bathrooms. His, hers, and confused.
Well, just look at what happened up at the University of Toronto, where they caught that guy in the ladies' bathroom, dressed in a blonde wig and a bad-looking dress, but with a video camera, and he just stood there and took pictures of everybody coming through. And when the women that were legitimately outraged at this behavior complained to the police, they came in, and he just said, "I'm transgendered. You can't stop me because I'm a woman."
Really? That happened? Oh, my gosh, I have to use that. It was in Toronto?
University of Toronto.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and they were right. There was nothing that they could do. And this is where the political correctness, everybody can be anything, which means you're nobody, to paraphrase that line from The Incredibles of, if everybody's special, then nobody's special.
Right.
Where does that lead society?
If everybody's a woman, nobody's a woman.
Yep, there you go. Put that in there, too. You can link back to us. We'll be okay with that.
Yes, if everybody's a woman. And that's a great line. If everybody's a woman, nobody's a woman.
So if everybody's a woman, then that answers that part of the affirmative action argument, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, okay.
All right. There's a war on me. I've heard about it.
I feel marginalized.
That's right.
There's a war on you, and it was started by George Stephanopoulos.
That's right. So anyway,
when he interviewed Mitt Romney,
is there a way? What do we do? I have Christian friends who I talk with on Facebook. We all live all over the country, and then I have some friends who are militant atheist types who are very left wing, and
not me.
they're still the friends from high school. We still
wrong
talk.
Wrong wave.
What are our steps, aside from having websites like stream.org, to try to help motivate and encourage Christians to stand up and oppose this nonsense?
I would, talk to your pastor, join groups like Family Research Council or the National Organization for Marriage. Those are two of the best organizations that have been standing up for religious freedom. Talk to your pastor, write your state legislator. I know in New Hampshire you might know him personally because there's pretty much one legislator for every 3 citizens, isn't there?
Not quite that low, but close.
Close.
Now you can walk down the street anyway.
3,000. It's pretty close to that, though. 3. It's not too far. So, yeah.
Yeah. So support your legislator if he's right about this. Criticize him if he's not. Let them know this is a women's safety issue, and also the laws like Mississippi, where they're trying to protect the freedom of pastors not to have to perform religious ceremonies they don't believe in. All of this is flowing from that catastrophic gay marriage decision, which just simply has got to be overturned. We need to win this presidential election and elect a solid conservative who's going to appoint better people to the court. Otherwise, everything we do is just like futile. It's like throwing rocks at Soviet tanks. If the Supreme Court keeps moving further left, we don't have a free country anymore. That's it.
Yeah, you're right. And what the hell's wrong with litmus tests, whether it be our litmus test for a good president or his litmus test for actual conservative jurists?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if you want to know what a litmus test is, it's a term of abuse that people use to attack an effective political lobby. So everybody knows the Israel lobby has a litmus test, and so it should. The NRA has a litmus test, and so it should. Litmus test is a scientific instrument to determine whether or not something is acid or alkaline, whether it will do the job you want it to, or whether it will actually do harm. If before you put something in your child's eye, you would want to know if it was a poisonous acid or not. Well, before we put someone on the Supreme Court, we want to know if they're a poisonous ass.
You do mean donkey, right?
Yes.
So when the litmus test turns blue in this
We're not
country
subject
or
to the
red
FCC
anywhere
yet.
else, you're in trouble.
Yeah, here's the thing about this too. We see the left and the Gestapo really complaining about organizations, the small businesses most of the time, and now it's gone to the state level. But when I see RFRA trying to be applied to a lot of folks, I keep thinking, okay, right now it's on pastors, or we just got through talking about it's on pastors and churches. But what about individuals who have strong beliefs about how things should be? I look at this and go, well, that's fine that they're going to protect my church, but what about me living my life the way that I believe it should be according to my Christian principles? I am the one that's really under assault here because I have no protection at all from anywhere.
That's right. It's a fundamental issue of liberty. We need libertarians on our side pushing freedom of association and freedom of commerce, freedom of contract, but they don't care. They're too busy just trying to legalize Girl Scout cookies with ganja in it.
Okay.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point because, we have a lot of libertarians up here, and sometimes you go to bat for you, they'll go to bat for you, but a lot of times they won't. Not a lot necessarily on religious issues because a lot of them are atheists, and we have a lot of good friends who are strong libertarians who are Christians, and so that helps. But
that helps.
But
I mean the ones who are like just small government libertarians, you know what? They're not going to pick this battle.
Mm-mm.
They'll concentrate on making sure porn is legal in every library. But God forbid that churches not be closed or taxed out of existence because their pre-existing religious beliefs are suddenly unacceptable because a Supreme Court majority has decided to invent a right out of nowhere. I loved what Antonin Scalia said about that, about the Constitution. He said, when they wanted to give women the vote, everyone on the Supreme Court agreed. They all wanted women to have the vote, but you didn't see anyone saying, oh, okay, let's take this to the court, and the justices can decide that the Founding Fathers, if they were alive today, would have given the women the vote, and then we'll do it by Supreme Court. No, they passed a constitutional amendment. because they respected the Constitution. The fact that now people just go to the Supreme Court, like going to your mom when you don't like what your dad said, and badger it until, okay, yeah, you can have a motorcycle.
All right. John, we're all out of time. Stream.org, we are looking forward to your post due on Monday. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot for spending some time with us. All righty. You have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. We'll be right back.
Excellent. Rock.